Get off my fucking gate.
Fuck you, it's my gate. I will do with it as I please, you fat... Oh, we are live. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ooga, fucking Ooga, cunts, and welcome back to another episode of Brockus Rage, where I basically get pissed off about some really stupid fucking topics, and today we're going to be talking about the gates. I've been holding this off for a while now because the medicine I've been taking has made me very tired, docile, and not rageful. So I wanted to give this a proper fuck you instead of, you know, just the occasion. I guess I don't like it. But the gates, Comicsgate, Gamergate, and the inevitable Wrestlegate, or Wrestlegate.
Don't you get me started on Bill Gates. My God, that's... oh, wait. He's not really a bad guy. Okay.
I think Bill Gates is an asshole.
He's a super villain, but it's okay in a very good way.
He's like Lex Luthor when he was running for president, but wasn't a complete like piece of shit about it. You know, he actually did good things. But
I suppose even Lex Luthor donated money to charity to get himself out of the hot box. So
yeah, of course, PR stunts and all.
Yeah, I guess it funds his vigilantism. Oh, we should make a comic book about Bill Gates. How by day he's a billionaire and by night he's a superhero.
That'd be weird, but funny at the same time.
Yeah, he'll rescue people and then he'll give them a bill each time.
I've saved the day. Here's your invoice. What? What the fuck kind of superhero are you? Hero for hire? Yeah, but don't charge me after you've done the deed. Fuck you.
Hey, if ambulances can charge you after they've saved your life, so can I.
That's the biggest
fair.
That's in my opinion, though.
That's actually a good point.
That's a really fucked up thing.
Like,
we're going to do the thing first, then we're going to charge. Bitch, okay, I understand in an emergency situation, you kind of need to save this person's life, but half the time, the ambulance is called because someone broke their fucking arm.
Oh, shit. You know what? We have to actually make this comic before someone else steals it. Fuck. All right, I guess we're announcing the gate.
Uh-oh. Optic Decay is stealing our ideas. Damn you!
What, is Optic in the chat?
No.
Fuck. Oh, okay.
He only cares about Leaf when it comes to all of us, and maybe sometimes me. And mostly your art.
I suppose that could be a factor. So, Leaf, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing all right. Doing all right. So, how's it feel knowing that guys are whacking off to you? I'm sorry. I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
That was a really weird schmeckle way of derailing the shit out of that conversation. Semaj.
Hey, by the way, before Schmeckle comes back, I have a song prepared for when you guys are sick of me. So I'm ready to go.
Oh shit! We'll wait. We'll wait till Schmeckle gets back, and then we'll get you to do it. So, Brockus. I guess you're answering the phone. So we're going to be talking about the various different gates. You guys know what I'm talking about? You know what? Never mind. I'm going to tell you anyways.
Half the time they know what we're talking about. The other half, they just want to be smart ass and be like, "What the hell's going on? What's Gamergate? Shut up and stop acting like you don't fucking know."
But it's all about ethics and games journalism.
Ethics and games journalism. You know, that's the fucking dumbest part about this whole thing. This is what I was talking about. The stupidest parts about Gamergate, the stupidest parts about Comicsgate, and the stupidest parts that will inevitably become Wrestlegate is the fact that it started. There's gonna be one, trust me. Ethan Van Sciver called it last year before there was ever really a problem, simply because, little known fact, Ethan Van Sciver does occasionally watch wrestling, and he had noticed, along with Tonka, Failure, and a handful of others, that there was this massive push for more female wrestler exposure. Now, don't get me wrong.
I mean, you know, the skimpier their outfits get, the better. I like it. That's fine with me.
Wrong kind of exposure. Wrong kind of exposure.
Oh.
Yeah. I granted, I love where you guys' minds went, and it went straight there for me as well. And I'm pretty sure Leaf's perverted ass mind even went there, even though, you know, she doesn't. Kind of weird. How do we do streams with somebody who doesn't masturbate? It's weird. Weird to me.
Well,
you're alien.
I'm gonna talk about this. It's a really awkward conversation.
Yeah, I'm not actually trying to get into the conversation. I'm making a comment and saying that you're fucking weird to me. You're also 10.
You're making a lot of weird assumptions there. Hey.
I'm just throwing shit. Anyways, so basically, Ethan Van Sciver had called it last year, and he said that eventually the SJWs are going to infiltrate. And so the next group that they're going to infiltrate is going to be wrestling. And it was because all of this weird, strange kind of feminism push that was going on with the WWE. And it was because there were more female wrestlers wanting to have more matches throughout Raw or SmackDown, which I'm fine with, as long as it's a good fucking match. For anyone who actually watched during the Attitude Era, you know that female wrestlers like Trish Stratus and Lita or even Chyna were fucking amazing talents to watch, because these women would get in the ring with men and fuck them up too. It was awesome. Granted, you never saw Trish Stratus really get the upper hand against Kane unless somebody else like got him in the balls beforehand, or she got him in the balls beforehand.
So for those of us who don't know wrestling, it means that, you know, so every now and then a woman will get in there and then duke it out with a guy. And some people
and
like,
seeing as how it's all fake, that actually would work.
Oh,
Sometime after the Attitude Era eventually faded away, the female wrestlers actually started complaining that they didn't want to wrestle with the man anymore. So they basically took that away, and now there are no longer technical intergender fucking matches where it's a man versus woman, or you know, intersex tag team match where it's a man and a woman. But if a man is tagged in, the other man has to automatically come in. It's just an automatic rule and shit. If the woman is tagged in, the other woman has to automatically come in. It's basically whoever's tagged, the opposing gender must immediately swap, kind of thing. That's how it works now. It didn't used to work that way. And it was weirdly entertaining to watch, like, a dude versus a chick, and then dude's got the upper hand, but then the other dude comes in, sneak attacks him, and then the chick's just kicking the shit out of his face. It was fucking good fun in the Attitude Era, but whatever. We're not focusing on the wrestling. Either way, or anyways, Ethan Van Sciver last year had made a tweet saying that they will be coming to for wrestling next, and it was because of what was going on with wrestling last year and for the last couple of years. Well, lo and behold, there is a hashtag #MeToo story still going on with WWE right now.
Oh, what a shocker. I mean, not to nerd this out for a moment, but I think I've mentioned that I play Champions Online, and we, role-playing superheroes and all that stuff. And one of the things that comes up is, there's a lot of, how shall I put it, just basically hormonal behavior. And somebody one time, just out of character, we're talking about how that happens on, and I said, consider for a moment that the Olympic Village has to ship in condoms in bulk. And the reason, think about this, you're talking about people who are highly athletic, superheroes usually are, often very good looking, and they live somewhat, how shall I put this? If they're risk adverse, they don't do this shit. Okay, basically, people that are adverse to risk do not do this shit. So people who are risk affectionate, so to speak, are gonna fuck a lot. So it didn't come. We just had this. It didn't come as much of a surprise to me. So the idea that there might be some fucking around in wrestling is less shocking.
No. Okay, so when I say there's a technical hashtag #MeToo, I mean because a guy who basically, I guess you could say he's a sports commentator or something like that. I don't know who the guy is, to be honest, but somebody who watches wrestling was talking about wrestling in an interview, and he was talking about a very specific wrestler. Now, when she was in NXT, she had smaller boobs, and she was essentially more entertaining, is what he would say. Like, she was far more athletic, she was far more entertaining when she was in NXT, but then she gets recruited to the big show, she gets a boob job, suddenly she's not as interesting to watch. Suddenly she's heavier, as he put it. Now, everybody took that as him trying to talk shit on her being a little bit thicker with muscle, or even being a little bit thicker with, she's just a thick girl, whatever the case was. No. When he said the whole heavier, or when he said lighter comment, he was making a reference to her boob job. Don't know how they can fucking argue bullshit. But whatever, they took it the wrong fucking way, and they were still fucking offended. And this was the catalyst. This was the thing that allowed the goddamn SJWs. And they haven't made anything really drastically different. We are going to get an all-women's pay-per-view fucking event. We've already had an all-women's Royal Rumble, I think twice now. We've had an all-women's certain things. Now, let me just explain. There are actually all-women wrestling leagues in this goddamn country. One of which I know for a fact is actually an all-nude wrestling league.
Color me shocked.
Brockus.
I stumbled across it by accident.
I'm so sure it was on accident, Brockus.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I was on Pornhub, but then I came across something and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" And I had to watch. It's legit wrestling, but they're naked. That's all it is.
It's for work. I swear to God.
I was just looking shit up. I was like, I wonder if there's fucking sex wrestling on this.
Yes, there definitely is. I've seen some.
I know about Ultimate Surrender, so.
Yeah. That's the first thing that popped into my mind. I was like, yeah, there's that thing.
A very good one, by the way.
I have very, very. I would claim that I found that on my own, but that would be a dirty lie. I had a friend show me that shit. I'm going.
Same here. A friend told me about Ultimate Surrender, and I was just like, "What the fuck is Ultimate Surrender? That sounds really weird."
It's one of those like fucking machines. I would love to claim that I found that on my own because, well, especially with the machines thing, it would be my shtick, right? But no, somebody else had to show me that shit. Apparently, my Pornhub foo is terrible.
Yeah. But anyways, so yeah, the technical hashtag Me Too is basically this female wrestler basically lost her shit, and it wasn't just her losing her shit. It was her losing her shit, and other female wrestlers losing their shit, and a few male white knight wrestlers losing their shit. It was just a bunch of people fucking attacking this guy for his comments, even though they're not paying attention to what he's actually saying. This is the kind of shit that pisses me off. How these things even begin is because someone says something that someone else doesn't like. And all of a sudden, we've got a fucking problem. And no one wants to focus on every bit of what the guy had actually just said. They don't want to focus on the fact that when she was in NXT, she was more interesting as a wrestler, as a performer. But when she got up to the big league and got a boob job, suddenly she just seemed like she, didn't really want to be there. She was less entertaining. She was less athletic, whatever the case was. It's just like when Zoe Quinn decided to spurn that fucking gamer journalist who then exposed her for basically going around and fucking a bunch of other gamer journalists just to get good reviews on the shitty games that she was actually developing and stuff.
We stop for a second and let's make sure we're all on the same line. We all know about Gamergate, right?
Everybody knows about Gamergate.
How about you, Leaf?
You realize I ran an anti-feminist page. Of course I heard about Gamergate.
I just have to cover all my bases. It's happened before. I'm sorry. I'm just double checking.
It's strangely.
I'm only picking on you because you're a woman. You do know that, right?
Because vagina.
Because vagina. Yeah.
Well, don't feel too bad. Occasionally they'll pick on me because I'm old.
Well, yeah, but. I mean, we can't go that far.
Well, here's the fucked up part about Gamergate. This is my old guy perspective. When people are like, "Yeah, there's corruption in games journalism," and I'm like, "So they've caught the game companies buying off the reporters again?" They're like, "No, it's a developer fucking some of the journalists." I'm like, "Oh." Well, that's a new way of bribing them. They used to just do it with exclusive access, and the fucking was where the companies fucked the customers.
Well, I don't want to actually pay you money, so how about some pussy? Oh, that works too.
I mean that saves you the money. If you don't have the money, well, just quickie around the corner. That'll do.
Exactly. But that's how that bullshit got started. Now, Comicsgate did not go the same route as somebody said a sexist thing. Comicsgate unfortunately started with very shitty writing, very shitty art, and very politically driven people being employed left and right in fucking Marvel Comics, and then eventually it leaking over into DC every once in a while. Not always.
I want to say that the Comicsgate thing started with BuzzFeed. I'm not entirely certain if that was true or not, but I know that there was a thing that went around the internet called the Hawkeye Initiative, and that was when they would I don't know why it was called that, but it was when they got like big women, fat women, if you will, trying to pose as superheroes from the comic books, like the female superheroes, and pointing out how it's such an impossible task to do. These comic books are unrealistic, that kind of stuff. And from there, it catapulted things, and people start noticing comic books in a negative way, and carrying on and on and on and on, without actually stopping to think, oh wait, it's fantasy. It doesn't have to be realistic.
That's part of the start of what eventually would become Comicsgate. For what I remember from what I was actually watching, it was just very questionable issues coming out where the various characters and stories were starting to sound and look a little bit on the what the fuck side. A good example of this is the Spider-Gwen comic books. As somebody who actually was reading the Spider-Gwen comic books, I picked up the first 6 issues when Spider-Gwen got her small run, which was just 6 issues shortly after the Spider-Verse series, which was another big fucking cataclysmic kind of scenario where Spider-Man goes through the various multiverses and teams up with other Spider-Men and stuff like that. Spider-Gwen got a small run because a lot of the fans were very interested in Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman from her universe, so they just went ahead and did a small 6-issue run. It did so well that they were going to continue this series, but they were going to do it after Secret Wars. Now, when I got all 6 of the fucking issues, I was very happy. The art was very good. The writing was pretty interesting. I liked what they were doing. The new way that they had designed Vulture was very fucking, terrifying. They made Vulture seem way more of a threat than, normally. And I was just like, wow, Vulture's actually pretty fucking badass in this. And then later in the story, you discover that Matt Murdock is actually a bad guy. He's a lawyer for Wilson Fisk, and so is Daredevil. Daredevil is actually a villain. He's not a costumed hero that saves the day in Hell's Kitchen. No, he's causing problems in Hell's Kitchen by being a lawyer as well as some kind of a crazy red-suited badass blind lawyer. Punisher didn't lose his family, but he's still a pissed off ex-military current FBI agent who basically just is twice the normal size.
Let's not worry about the all the various different details within the comics, because not everyone here is going to get that.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so Spider-Gwen. The art itself for Spider-Gwen, however, it turned to shit when they continued on. What the fuck is this? Gwen Stacy. Oh, her music list. Break your neck. Drop it low. Shatter me. Slamming. The spine. Threw it on the ground. My neck, my back. Well, she would have those in her playlist.
That's actually pretty good.
I still love that movie. Anyways, so when it came to the Gwen Stacy run, it was very interesting, or the Spider-Gwen series, it was very interesting. I liked it. Alternate universe, it was really cool. And then they came back with the radioactive Spider-Gwen, which was the continuation after Secret Wars. The art was very bad. It was very independent comic style type things. It's something you would have typically seen in Image during the 90s, where it was very gritty.
If this wasn't a unique thing between just Spider-Gwen, I mean, it started infecting a lot of the Marvel comics. But that was also when they started hiring people from indie developers and indie web comics.
Well, yeah, see, that's where I started questioning everything, because this was around the time where I actually started to notice that there was bad writing and bad art in comic books, was because the Radioactive Spider-Gwen series, the writing was very questionable. It didn't make any sense. The art was very questionable. I didn't really like it. I mean, it's not bad art. It's just not the art I expected to see, and I really didn't want it. And then I started noticing the writing and the art getting lower and lower in quality when it came to the other stories I was following, which was the Uncanny X-Men, the Extraordinary X-Men, and Astonishing X-Men series, along with a couple of Inhumans series. I was following a lot of fucking stories. And the stories really started to just become more watered down. The art was getting really, really shitty. I didn't know what was happening. And then I started watching more and more diversity in comics and Captain Comics videos. And I started realizing what the fuck was happening. Marvel was being overrun by indie comics and Tumblrite fucking comic book creators. And all of a sudden, everything was turning into shit quality. There were one or two books that were still good, but everything else was just turning into garbage. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And that's eventually when Comicsgate really started to take full swing, is because the entire comics book communities were just, they were basically looking at Marvel and going, what the fuck are you doing? And every time we spoke up, Marvel would basically tell us, well, you can go fuck yourself. And it wasn't even Marvel, actually. It wasn't Axel Alonso going to fucking social media and talking shit. It was people like Gail Simone, Mark Waid, Dan Slott. Fuck these people.
You're getting ready to rage sooner than we should. I was going to say we should also probably preface what the meaning of the word gate is. In case anyone, I'm pretty sure anyone tuning into us would probably already know, but just in case. I think it's a reference to Watergate, the situation with was it Nixon? Yeah. Red, you might know this more than us, right? Watergate.
Okay, Watergate wasn't called Watergate because it was, a gated kind of thing. It was the building was literally called Watergate.
Yeah, it was Watergate Hotel.
Exactly.
So, but the thing, gate eventually became a common term in politics. It basically you add something to it because it's been in use ever since Watergate. For anything that's a major controversy, it's a gate of some kind, because it was always compared to the scandal of Watergate, because it became the sort of gold standard of how big of a deal it is, because it made heroes out of two hack reporters, and it theoretically brought down a president. So
the reason
after that, every junior journalist wanted to be Woodward. And what they didn't realize is that it wasn't the reporting that made Woodward, it was the event. He was just lucky.
Basically, what there is that, and then there's the gatekeeping concept. That's pretty much what it is. It isn't just given the name with a gate because, of the Watergate incident. People don't really know that much about Watergate or anything like that. So what this is, what Comicsgate was, it was a combination of both the Watergate shit, or a Gamergate, I'm sorry. Gamergate was both a combination of the Watergate actual, shit going on there, because it was journalism, not political journalism, but journalism nonetheless, being corrupted, bought off, all that shit. And on top of it, it was also the gaming community threw a fucking shit fit, because they were sick and tired of bullshit like this. They were sick and tired of gaming journalists shitting all over actual good games and talking crap about it, because, gaming journalists typically don't play video games. So they just say, I don't like this game because it was too hard. And there's the gamers like level 150. Fuck you. It's a really good game. And it's actually complicated because it makes you work for something. You have to achieve shit in this game. It's that sense of fucking, accomplishment that you're working for, but you just want instant gratification. Fuck you. So it was,
Check your DMs. I have something that will make you mad.
So it was the idea of gatekeeping. That's mainly what it was. It was because the gamers actually got pissed off, and some people were trying to say something to the effects of, the gaming community are just gatekeeping. They're trying to keep people out. They're trying to keep that. The biggest argument was they're trying to keep women out. That was their biggest argument, which is not what the gaming community wanted. It wasn't that they wanted women to stay out of gaming or anything like that. Yeah, we make fun of women. Leaf, you're not a gamer. We make fun of women for being terrible at video games. She's not a
But
gamer.
We make
She's
fun of each other for being terrible at video games.
shut up. Leaf is shit tier.
What the hell? She's right here.
And I've observed.
But seriously though, with all the shit, there was actually money being raised for female gaming devs.
Yeah, and that got
That fucking shut down.
Yep.
We want to help women, they say, as they shut down a thing.
Yeah, they raise money, shut it down, take the money. And that's the saddest part. A lot of these people.
It was the Gamergate people raising money for female gaming devs, and the antis shut it down because
Was it? I'm trying to remember if that was the Fine Young Capitalist. See, here's the other problem: is that this has been going on for quite some time, and people are starting to forget Gamergate, and that's how old it's starting to get. Yeah, we can't really forget everything.
Yeah.
Can never forget that how they say that they're here to help the women's, and then they proceed to do shit to hurt the female gaming devs, because why not? And then a lot of the times they lose their shit over characters that they say are too sexualized and complain about the evil men, but it was the women that designed them. Just saying. Oh, fucking retarded.
There's something also to be said over the because there was other movements that were going on around that time. There was the body positivity movement, which coalesced with a lot of the stuff that was going on, pointing out that women in various forms of media are just have impossible body standards when it comes to like attractiveness and physical appearance, and asking for obese characters.
No, it's not that they're asking for. They're demanding. They're demanding for obese Disney princesses. They're demanding for obese heroes in video games, which makes zero sense. They're demanding for a lot of really weird, unrealistic shit in video games that did not previously have stuff like that. Or they want an entire game just like Bayonetta with a fat chick as the fucking main character, and it's like, no, that wouldn't make sense.
And I think also in video games as well, but that's a little harder to achieve because a lot of those things you have to explain. Like, all right, well, a fat character can't exactly maneuver around certain areas, and it's not that interesting of a thing to do. And in comics in particular, I like to point out that we had an incident where they did create their own comic, which I think is good. If you're going to complain, you should go out and make something of it. But if you are not aware of this, they did create a character called Faith, and she is.
I remember this.
Oh the flying marshmallow.
The fat superhero.
What I said about superheroes and being athletic and all that stuff is because it is basically to keep a shape like that and fight crime. She would have to eat the equivalent, the dietary intake of 5 men, or eat the 5 men every day. There's a reason why superheroes look fucking ripped.
The problem
because they're working their asses off.
The problem I had with
character, if they bring back Operation Harpoon and they fix it. I'm just saying.
The problem I had. Yeah, I do agree.
Harpoon was great. They fucked around with what's her face, Tess Holiday. They made her skinny. A skinny Tess Holiday is actually attractive.
Wow.
All they need to do is Operation Land or Operation Harpoon this character and watch them lose their fucking shit again.
Yeah, another thing that kind of annoyed the shit out of me about the whole Faith thing was when they were introducing Faith. Now, mind you, this was a character that had already existed in another comic book, in Image, and all that shit. And
this is Valiant Comics.
It was Valiant. Okay,
yeah,
it was an independent comic book company. She had already previously existed in another comic book series, but she didn't have a big role or anything like that. And eventually, she got her own comic book series, obviously named after her. I never heard of her until this stuff, and what pissed me off about this, mind you, one of the only other people that were complaining about this character was an actual female comic book fan, friend of mine, on Facebook. And the two of us were pissed off because all they kept focusing on was the fact that she's a nerd and she has a fucking skinny boyfriend. That was it. That was all they would fucking focus on, that she's fat, she's a nerd, and she has a skinny boyfriend. That and she somehow also has sex. And I'm like, no one is discrediting fat women for having sex. There are plenty of white men in a trailer park that will fuck the hell out of your hippopotami ass. And there are plenty of black dudes out there that love big girls.
And we also can't forget that she's a Hillary supporter.
Oh, of course.
From issue 5.
I'm mainly complaining about her announcement.
Wasn't this just like lazy writing overall for her character?
It's extremely fucking lazy writing overall. They wanted to make her character this very unbelievable type of character, because when you actually read the comic books, nothing makes sense. Absolutely nothing makes sense.
Implying I would actually read these. Like, they don't appeal to me in any way.
You know, the funny thing is, I remember watching a Sargon video, and he was talking about this particular comic and how it was coming out. Except this time it hadn't hit store shelves yet. And there were so many people saying that this is great. We finally have like overweight, fat acceptance. We have all this wonderful positive. They kept going after article after article after article. Not one ever talked about her powers. No one knows what she does. And to this day,
I thought her powers were she could like move shit with her mind.
She has flight and telekinesis. Yeah.
Okay, I knew it.
It took me several months and up to issue number 3 for me to even learn about that. I'm not even shitting you. I didn't know what her fucking powers were up until then.
You could have easily just learned about it on Twitter.
It's dumb. It's just fucking dumb because they focus so much on the non-issue or non-important parts of her character, because they just keep wanting to push, this is the kind of person she is. And I'm like, who the fuck is even interested in that? Who the fuck? And here's the weird part. A former friend of mine, his wife is an actual fan of the Faith comic books. And when we went into a comic book store, the only book she bought was Faith. And I'm like, oh, you wanted to buy that? That's a terrible book. It's bad writing, and it's just, decent art, but it's just shit writing overall. She's like, I like it. She's a fat chick, mind you. Come to find out later, she actually is an SJW. She's one of those people that pretends to be something she isn't, and then when you least expect it, when you've crossed her, essentially, she brings out all the SJW fucking tactics and stuff. And I ended up losing that friend because of her, mainly because he's a fucking spineless, sackless little piece of shit. But still, like, he didn't want to lose her, so he decided to ditch me. And I'm like, okay, wow, that's fucking insane. All for pussy. You throw away a fucking friendship like that. Okay.
Facebook.
I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that her alter ego, her other character, actually works at BuzzFeed.
Oh wow!
Oh, for Christ's sake!
Oh hey, do me a favor, Semaj, do a Google search for a comic heroine called Ghost.
Oh, Ghost! I think I know Ghost.
Yeah, you know who Ghost is. Okay, good. Because I remember, because now that I think that what fucked up reminded me was that at one point I was reading, I don't know what issue of the comic, a friend of mine was collecting it before he got sick of it, but it was one of those, the first comic I'd really encountered with where the female lead was just insufferable. And what was really fucking funny was at one point, the first few issues, she makes this friend, and it's definitely a friendship. There's no romantic interest in there. But because if you've seen Ghost, the reason why this is funny, because she is stacked like a brick shit house. Holy shit, the boobs. So she's getting along well with this guy until his girlfriend shows up, and his girlfriend is this tall, leggy blonde with boobs almost as big as hers, and she loses her shit. It's like because he's apparently dating a girl who's way apparently hitting above his weight or something. It was really, really funny. At that point, I stopped reading it, but it's like, holy crap, the fuck is wrong with this writer? I wasn't sure if she was the writer was trying to write her as a bitch or just giving her a character flaw, or if it was just because the writer was insufferable. But it was really hard to tell.
I think Facebook thinks I'm a very sad person because it has been suggesting so many friends lately. I'm just like, I don't need any more friends, Facebook.
Could be. This is the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Red? Yeah, Ghost. I remember seeing pictures of this. I've actually never picked up a comic, mostly because my stores don't usually carry it. But I remember seeing this and going, this is an interesting character. I wouldn't mind checking her out.
It was odd for a while, like the first few, because she seemed like a sort of a weirdly tragic character. But after a while, I just got the impression that she's just a bitch. And while some, assholes and bitches as lead characters can sometimes be entertaining, I think it was that and a few other just snide comments were like, I don't know, I was just confused. But I think that here's the thing about, and this is, I think, been universally true of fandoms in general. It is a symptom of the effect that I've always, and I'm old, so I remember when this girls wanting to be treating like boys was a little young in the kid teen culture. And my mother was a bit of a feminist back then. She still kind of is, but she's mellowed considerably, thank God. But I had a discussion with her. I swear to God, this was a discussion I actually had with my mother, and she's like, because I had been writing my own little stories about sort of a robot race of aliens. It was basically a ripoff of Transformers, but it was when you're in early teens, that's the best you can often do, is to try and make something like the things that you enjoy. And I was creating them, and I had created the different teams, and I had created a whole team of female robots as well. And she was like, do they work together? I said, no, they're kind of on separate teams, because and I was of the opinion that girls and boys teams wouldn't play together that well. She decided this was a teaching moment. And I won't say she's entirely wrong, because I think I may have taken that idea too far. But we got on the subject of they should be treated the same. I was like, why would a girl want to be treated the way other boys treat each other? And as I've grown up, I've articulated this, and I'm not the only one by any means, of course. But the whole problem with women who are not really gamers, when they get into the gamer environment and see the way gamers treat each other, they expect the civility that you get in normal public that men will treat women with to appear. No, they will to be treated as an equal in the gaming environment is to be shit on just as hard as they do the guys. You will be called a faggot. You will be called a motherfucker. You will be called something that rhymes with digger, and it doesn't matter what color, race, or sexual preference you actually are.
I think it depends on who. I think it depends on who you're playing with, because I've literally never had that happen to me.
Well, ever. I mean, in the sense that, but depending on your environment, yes.
To the women that go into the game and feel the need to repeatedly announce that they are a female playing a video game, and that's when it happens.
Yeah, that's true, because because I've also the kind of the phenomenon. Somebody had written a brilliant article about this way back about being a girl in a fandom, and there are women who will go in expecting that that's something special. That I'm a girl in the fandom. Like, bitch, they're get in line. There's 6 other chicks who've been here longer than you, so you're not special. No one cares. That's like the whole thing with the whole purity test of, well, how big of a fan are you really? Bitch, please, we all get the same goddamn thing. The first time I ever met somebody who was also a big fan of Battle of the Planets and Star Blazers, the first thing I got was a fucking quiz. And you know why? Because he wanted to know how deep I was in, if I was as deep into it as he was. I was not, but I did it as well as I could. And that's how nerds interact. But these chicks who are not actually nerds get shocked and offended when that happens to them.
Yeah, I do that sort of thing with everybody. If I find out you're a comic book fan, or if I even get an inkling of you might be a comic book fan or something like that, I ask questions like, who's your favorite? What's your favorite comic book publishing company? Who are your favorite characters? What books do you read? Stuff like that. And it's just, I just want to know, what level of fan are you? And if it turns out you're just a casual, then I'm gonna fucking treat you like I treat every other casual. I'm gonna make fun of you, say you're a filthy fucking casual, and then go sit in your fucking corner and color with your crayons. Shit like that. Because I am a huge fucking comic book nerd. And so I fucking love comic books. I wanted to get into comic books. I still want to eventually make my own comic books. And so I just do shit like that. It's not out of malice. It's because that's how I was fucking treated when I started reading comic books. All I was reading was X-Men at one point, and some dude called me a faggot for not reading fucking Avengers or not reading Batman, whatever the case was. I was just like, why did I get called a faggot? Why was I called a faggot? I was young, by the way. And that's just how we treat each other. That's just what we do to each other.
And we will shit on us. And whatever your favorite thing is, there's somebody that will shit on it. You know, and you better get used to that. You better be ready to defend it with good humor, because if you get really offended and you act like a bitch, they're gonna treat you like a bitch. If you fight back and take it with good humor, everybody's gonna be like, okay, he's all right. You know?
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of that comedy routine where I can't remember the comedian's name, but he said me and a friend were going to Ireland, and this drunk Irish guy walks up and starts going, "Oh, you're the biggest." He said, "I can't do the accent. You're the biggest," and he says the N word and all this stuff, and starts cussing him out. The guy is like, my friend started to get offended. I said, "No, hold on. I speak drunk Irish." But he goes, "Oh, you patty bastard! What's going on? What the hell's wrong with you?" And started insulting him back, and they were like, friends." That's how fans are. That's how dudes are. And if you want to walk in a world that dudes built, you're gonna have to fucking live with it. And plenty of women, the real fans, the women, you can't tell them apart. A little bit, because they write a lot more slash fic than the dudes do. But they sink and swim just as well as the rest of us do.
Yeah, I've watched some of my female friends in the various comic book groups, but I've watched a few female friends just completely eviscerate some so-called elitist who doesn't actually know anything about certain comic books. Like, the guy actually was claiming he knows so much about comic books, and a somewhat askew character, I think it was Hawkeye, is his favorite character, and Hawkeye is so underappreciated. Clint Barton is the most underappreciated character and stuff. Me and a handful of my friends who are big fans of Hawkeye, we actually know this guy's full of shit. But we let one of our female friends pretty much dig into this guy about that. And oh shit, we had a damn good laugh at how she made him look like a fucking know-nothing bitch. Because when he tried to actually claim this and that about these story arcs, or you know, he did this and he did that, she was showing actual fucking proof that he didn't know what he was talking about. Some of we call it, you know, the scans, the fucking screenshots, basically, of him, and he was just being debunked in the most vicious way possible. She gained so much fucking respect from everybody from that. We were just like, I don't know where the fuck you came from, but you're one of us now. You're officially one of us. And we had like some kind of gay fucking ritual where we just bombarded her with a bunch of gifts and shit, and it was fucking hilarious.
There's some of the ways that men treat each other is usually with a little bit of ridicule and often with a lot of criticism and hatred. Sorry, not hatred. We're a lot tougher on other guys than we are with women. Yeah. And part of the reason for that, in my, or at least the way I think of it, is because the life of men is not exactly easy. We have to go out there and do backbreaking labor. The world doesn't give a rat's ass about us. We're essentially born at a disadvantage, just because it's whatever we go through, no one's going to care. And I think with our friends, you know, do this kind of stuff to us, it's not meant to be actual hateful or anything. It's meant to toughen us up.
Well, sometimes it's meant to be hateful.
Oh, I mean, maybe in your circle of friends, but that's only because some of them, yeah, I mean, that's different. But
we are vicious and mean and just evil to each other at times. Like, the things that come out of our mouths, you would swear there would have been some kind of a fucking Twitter hashtag movement just because of us and our language. And I think the worst of us really sometimes is like the few non-whites in our group that we will have on occasion, like, because we don't always hang out with each other. But I have this one. I mainly hate his guts because he's skinny as fuck and can eat twice as much as me, and I'm just like, fuck you, piece of shit, you bottomless pit motherfucker! How dare you show me up in this fucking this restaurant.
I just want to say before you go on there, I'm sorry for doing this. I know it's a dick move, but I just want to say I love this picture. I love the artwork and the tones and the colors. It's quite lovely and everything else. There's something about it though I cannot stand. If you look closely enough,
what the fuck? Who thought this was a good idea? What moron let this go to completion?
The string is behind the bow that or the arrows that he's holding in his mouth. Oh. The moment he releases that, his teeth are going to go flying.
I think they did make an obvious artistic fuck up because it looks like it's actually going over and under because it's 2 arrows, but one arrow is inside the string and the other one is on the outside.
Yeah, it's supposed to look it's going under the 2 in his mouth, but it sure as hell doesn't.
Yeah.
Now, unless there's like a story thing going on with this, like he wasn't looking when he pulled it back. He's just talking to someone. All right, guys, we're gonna check this out here, and he just sort of looks. He's like, and now he's gonna turn his head and go, "See this? Not even looking." Like if they do that, fine, and that could be a story thing. I'm just saying, without context, I am beyond mad looking at this picture. I'm sorry.
Well, here's another thing I think that maybe younger fans and people who are kind of new to it might miss is a lot of people, particularly, I mean, if you've been in as long as I have, and other people, people who've been much longer. The other thing, up until say maybe the last decade, almost every genre of gaming, comics, all this shit was very fringe, very insular, because it was not a well-regarded hobby by anyone. And now it's almost like some of these are the billion-dollar franchises, and it's an industry that makes more money than standard movies in some cases. Holy shit. And as a result, people who have not lived through that, the shall we call it the uphill twice through driving snow, or uphill both ways through the snow era, don't understand why some of us might resent the newbies. And especially the newbies who clearly don't get the culture, because you kind of had to earn your place. That's one of the reasons why it's as confrontational and challenging as it is because used to you had to earn your place because we felt like we had earned our place just by surviving the ridicule from normal people. So we felt like we had earned it. So anyone who was coming in new damn well better be on our fucking level, or they're get ready to be educated. And because we earned it. And and I've gotten to the point where even I've gotten kind of curmudgeonly and started to resent how popular, how common it is to see. It's kind of like all the heavy metalheads who got pissed off when the average Joe started wearing a Metallica t-shirt and talking about how great Saint Anger was. Well, fuck you, asshole. You don't know shit. You don't know shit about shit. And you don't remember when they called it the devil's music. Kiss my ass.
It's kind of funny because there's actually there's a story involving my sister and one of her exes, which is kind of funny about this. She didn't say anything to him to his face or anything like that, but like one of her exes would go about saying like how much of a fan he was of comic books. But at one point in the conversation, he actually pointed out he never liked comic books when he was a kid. He never really liked reading comic books. He never liked the characters. The cartoons were all right, but they didn't really hold his interest and stuff. But now, because of the MCU, he loves comic books. He loves Marvel, and he's actually started getting a bunch of the toys or the Funko Pops, posters, T-shirts, shit like that. He's a newborn Marvel fan essentially.
Exactly.
And my sister, in her head, she told me this later. In her head, she's the one who's actually looking at him. You fucking piece of shit. You filthy casual ass bitch. My brother was ridiculed for most of his life for liking this shit. He got made fun of and picked on all the fucking time in school. He got picked on for being an adult who still liked comic books. You're just a goddamn fake. And when she told me this story, I'm laughing my fucking ass off because I'm like, I don't even do that. What the fuck? I don't fucking do that. Like, I don't go around talking about like I'm a fan, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there is a story about me and Aquaman that I don't want to get into, but I just found it funny that there aren't even fans of comic books that will eventually look at the newbies and call them full of shit. They're not even in our world, but they will call them full of shit just because they said something or did something that, you know, kind of doesn't add up to what they're claiming. And I find that type of thing funny. But yeah, like the gates, the Gamergate, the Comicsgate, and the inevitable Wrestlegate, they're fucking dumb. They really are. They're dumb. When you think about it, yes, it is a good idea to actually fight against really stupid ideas and changing the entire fucking field to basically demand that female game developers get on projects even if they don't have the skills or abilities to actually pull off what we want in a video game and shit, and we end up getting a shit project because of it. Or product, not project. It's fucking stupid. It's really goddamn stupid because you hear this far too often. We demand, you know, half the work go to women. Well, what if they don't want to do the work? On top of that, what if they're not as good as this other guy? Like, what if Bobby is on this project specifically because Bobby is really fucking good at what he does, and Susie is not good at what Bobby does, nor is she good in that field in general, and fucking you're still demanding Susie take Bobby's job. Fuck you. Fuck you for that.
There have been women in comics and in games for quite a long time. It's not an isolated thing. I mean, women can get into this thing. No one's stopping them. And the reason why no one was stopping them is because it was a merit-based system. You had to have proven yourself either through going through an education system or just making your own projects. You have to prove yourself. It's what you have to do. And that's the way it was, and it worked.
Yeah.
Well, I will say there is something that there was a certain amount of gatekeeping, but it was nowhere near what they thought of, because there's still a sense of are you sure this is the industry you want to be in? Because most women are not interested in that. But here's the other thing that I wanted to mention, by the way. Did any of you guys watch the Game Awards that were like broadcast through Steam and all that? I don't remember. Back.
No, but
they had this Lifetime Achievement Award for this lady who worked on one Atari game. I'm like, this is the best you could fucking do. I was like vaguely insulted. She was talking about how she kind of remembers it a little bit. I don't remember what Atari game it was, but I'm just thinking, that's it? The one game? That's the best in all of the industry. If you wanted to give it a Lifetime Achievement Award to a woman, this is the best you could do? Surely there's somebody else out there. Jesus.
There probably is, but part of the thing with
if there wasn't.
Well, part of the thing with the Game Awards is also because they want to have someone in there that represents them, represents whatever it is that they're looking for, be it the political versions, or they want it. It's more or less like a lot of these Game Award shows have made themselves useless. Yeah. Because they don't focus on merit so much as do they represent what we want in our political worldviews. And it's been that way for a long time in other award shows, be it in movies and games. And it's you can see that it's not working in their benefit because, I mean, I think the Oscars had an all-time low in viewership. No one cares about the Oscars anymore. And same thing with it's been a trend throughout most award shows in general. Everything is going down. It used to be awards was to bring up people who have achieved the best of the best in their field, and unfortunately, it hasn't been going that way. And a lot of us also know this way because you'll see like big blockbuster movies that are beloved the world over, yet none of them will ever win awards because they're not Oscar Gold. Or whatever the
Academy does not deem them as Oscar worthy.
Yep. I mean, never mind that they make so much money and the reviews are universally loved, but no. You don't win an award.
Take into consideration this: Clerks was hated at the independent film, I guess show, whatever. The independent film fucking thing that Kevin Smith had actually submitted it to and everything like that. It was hated It was hated by a bunch of people. They didn't like it. They thought it was crap. They thought it was terrible. They thought it was boring, whatever the case was. And Kevin Smith didn't really do anything for a while after that. Eventually, it got made into a VHS. A bunch of college kids found it at a video store. And overnight, practically, it became a fucking cult classic. He got a shitload of sales. A shitload of money simply because of the after sales, because people were renting it at video stores or buying it. They wanted to fucking know Clerks, and people were even making copies of it, giving it to their friends. They were like, I love this movie. I want to own it. I want to actually own it, not just a copy of it. I want to own the legitimate thing. I want to support this guy. And he got enough eyes on him that he eventually followed up with Mallrats, which is technically a prequel to Clerks. And the reason why is because if you pay attention to the happenings that actually are connected between Mallrats and Clerks, you will discover that the events of Clerks happen right before what actually happens in the events of Clerks is actually after Mallrats. So Mallrats is technically the very first movie in this actual long-winded story that happens. He kind of created his own John Hughes movieverse type thing. But anyways, he got enough recognition from Mallrats to where he followed that up with Chasing Amy, and so on and so forth. The guy, he basically made these movies that were initially hated. And one of his crowning achievements, one of his most favorite moments was in Clerks 2. I think it was 7 different critics got up in the first 15 minutes of the fucking movie, got up and walked out because of the fucking cripple joke that Randall makes. And Kevin Smith is a sick bastard who actually now puts jokes into his movies, not only because they're fucking funny, but because he wants to see how disgusted he can make certain critics.
I did want to see on the Kevin Smith there. This is what he was like before, like when he goes in the industry. He's a big guy. He's all that kind of thing. And this is him now. I want the big Kevin Smith back. Not because he was big, not because he was round, but because this Kevin Smith, when he started out there, he did a thing called An Evening with Kevin Smith. I think this after he did like 3 movies or something. And his opinions on Hollywood were very jaded. They were very not so great. He was fucking honest, and he blared like there was a story he was talking about when he was pitched, or he was trying to make a pitch for making a new Superman movie. Mm-hmm. It was beautiful. Well, if anyone here is listening, type in An Evening with Kevin Smith, and you'll see all the various different highlights on YouTube.
It's actually very good.
It's absolutely superb. Now, he has a very successful podcast right now, a couple of them. If you listen to him nowadays, he is super positive, always happy, got lots of great things to say, never says anything bad about any movie. And I know that this Kevin Smith, he would shit on every one of these terrible, god-awful movies. He would have seen Justice League. He would have torn that movie a new asshole. He would have made it seem like, and the people would have petitioned to say, get this guy on the next superhero movie or whatever. He could have stirred a crowd. This guy, he'd never step on a fly. He's totally PG. He's totally able to do anything. He's such a suck up. He's such a shill. And this Kevin Smith, I hate. I will say one good thing about this Kevin Smith. When Stan Lee was having his problems with his lawsuit and everything, and the health issues and all that, he offered his house. He offered his home. He offered to pay the medical bills. I don't know about medical bills, but I think he said he might have helped out with that. He wanted to help Stan Lee. I mean, I can't say he's not a bad guy. I just like
no, Kevin guy. Smith isn't a bad guy, and you're actually partly accurate on his I would say levels of bitchness. Just because when you actually look at even his when he does his podcasts and stuff like that, and he talks about movies and everything, he's way too fucking lenient on known bad movies. He was way too lenient on Suicide Squad. He was way too lenient on Star Wars. He's way too fucking positive because, I don't know. I think he's just he's getting up there in age. The medicine he's taking has cost. That's no, never show this again. No, take this off the screen. I refuse to acknowledge Kevin Smith without facial hair.
Is that fair?
How dare you, sir? Anyways, Kevin Smith, yeah, he's a little bit too much of a pushover. But I think it's kind of obvious why, though.
You're right. He's smoking way too much pot.
Oh no, it's not. It's not that he's smoking way too much pot. Like, pay attention. He now has a new TV show that's coming out, or it is out. I can't remember which. He hasn't really had to do much in terms of movies, but he's basically he's had a few cameos in this movie or that movie, simply because he started playing ball a few years back. Simply because he stopped complaining as much. Simply because he wasn't so vocal about his issues with Hollywood and stuff like that. And he started showing up in random movies. He was in the Daredevil fucking movie in a cameo. He was in what was the fucking...
he was in a couple of animated movies. He was in a few things here and there. No, like there's a reason why people are saying he's a shill now, and I get that, but I think also like a lot of things have changed. Like his priorities have changed. He's a family man. He has to support a wife and a kid and all that, and I get that. And
speaking of which, you're feminists?
Yes, the whole household is a bunch of feminists, and yeah.
Kind of sad, actually.
It is kind of sad. I don't know what to say about that. So, but it is what it is. And also he's directing a bunch of the DC TV series. Like he did The Flash, a couple episodes of that, and he did Supergirl. And that the other thing he did openly say, super feminist Supergirl, which, you know, I'll have you know that people have stopped watching that show and it's getting canceled. So
yeah, it got kind of awful. I mean, here's the thing: my wife and I have been following Arrow and Flash, and then we were watching the crossover episodes, and we stopped watching Heroes of Tomorrow as well, because it became basically Lesbians of Tomorrow, as we like to joke. But we were watching the crossover episodes and realized, shit, we're gonna have to watch up to this point in Supergirl and Heroes of Tomorrow to catch up the episodes. And she goes, no, it's on Netflix. We can just skip to the crossover episodes and discard the rest. I'm like, I love you so much. I am sporting a half chub just because of that.
That's actually...
That's my woman, damn it.
So... I actually was watching all the DC shows with the exception of Supergirl. The only reason why I wasn't watching Supergirl wasn't because I refused to watch Supergirl. When Supergirl was on, there were far too many shows being recorded at that same time. So if I tried to, record Supergirl, it would immediately get deleted. And the only reason why I know this is because I tried recording Supergirl for a few weeks at one point. The episode, the first episode, the second episode, and like if they had reruns and shit like that, I tried to record them. Well, they were getting deleted because somebody was getting pissed off. Like, oh, I want to keep watching this current show, and it's going to force me to watch one of these other shows that I don't want to watch, but they're being recorded, so I'm going to delete this one. And they would always delete my fucking shows, even though I'm the one paying for the fucking cable bill. They would delete my shows, because they didn't want to delete this person's show or that person's show for whatever fucking reason. So they would always delete my shows, and I just gave up on even attempting to watch Supergirl. But I was watching Arrow. I was watching Arrow. I was watching Flash. I was watching DC's Legends of Tomorrow, and I quit on all of these shows. I quit on all of them because Arrow was nothing more than copy, rinse, repeat. That was it. That was all it was. And I say copy, rinse, repeat, because all it was each season was a copy of the previous season. Oliver Queen had to consistently learn the exact same lesson he's been learning since season 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3 are probably the best seasons out of everything that is the Arrowverse. Yeah. And then the Flash. The Flash got really fucking weak. It got stupid. It was season 1, great. Season 2, fantastic. Season 3, what are you doing? Season 4, okay, now you need to stop.
Oh shit, he was. Oh, I didn't realize he was in Moose Jaw. I was in Moose Jaw not too long ago.
He has a weird chubby for Canada, Kevin Smith.
I think because half his relatives are from Canada, which
Probably.
could also explain his choice in movies.
And his obsession with hockey.
Yeah, that too. That could also be a factor.
Yeah. And then DC's Legend of Tomorrow. Season 1 was great. Season 2 fucking sucked.
Yeah.
Season 3 was so fucking terrible. This was actually when I quit all 3 shows. Halfway through season 3, because each of them has a mid-season finale.
Yeah.
You watch half of the season, and then the holidays happen, and then shortly after the holidays, sometime in February, they pick up again, and then you start watching the shows again. I stopped fucking watching after the season finale, the mid-season finale. I stopped watching halfway through an entire fucking season of a show because each fucking one of them was just a trash heap of stupidity. I think I tried watching the Arrow and Flash episodes that would come later on, like when they started the second half of the season, and I tried watching them, and I turned off Arrow halfway through the episode, and I finished Flash, but was pissed the hell off.
Yeah,
and I'd given up. I went into the DVR and I was just like, delete you, delete you, delete you, delete you. I don't fucking care.
My
I
wife and I've been enjoying it so far, at least Flash and Arrow. Yeah, Arrow's been kind of repetitive, and we noticed that, but sometimes we'll stick to it for a few good episodes because we can watch them in a pretty good clip. And like, what was it? But I mean, the second season of Heroes of Tomorrow, we were just like, ugh. It went downhill in a hurry because whoever's writing that show has a giant hard on for Sarah, and she's not that interesting of a character. She's really not. I mean, she's not a bad character, but she can't carry the show on her own. She's not Captain Kirk, you know. It's not funny. And Arrow we've put up with for I don't know what number of reasons. I think it's a combination of the you know we like Felicity and Oliver, you know, for the opposite person on it because you know that's just one of those things. But it's just we enjoy sitting down and watching stuff together. We're currently I think about halfway through the second season of Iron Fist, which is much better. They've much better than the first season, and Luke Cage is the same way. Second season, much improved.
Is it? I purposely have been avoiding Iron Fist just because the first season was so terrible.
Second season of Iron Fist is really good. They still have trouble characterizing Danny a bit, but the things going around are really interesting. And the second season of Luke Cage is fucking awesome. It's really good. It's not as okay, it is not as good as any of the seasons of Daredevil. Daredevil was fucking amazing. Okay. But it's not as good as Daredevil, but it's really good. And I also thought highly of Punisher, but I know that's a kind of a controversial opinion. I thought it was great.
So, just gonna do something here. Since I was talking about Kevin Smith, I did want to bring something up. And I don't usually whoops, wrong thing. Wrong window. Sorry, I got way too many windows open right now.
The chat just got to look at themselves on the show. They get to have a cameo.
Exactly. I looked at the wrong one. Okay. This is the YouTube channel for Alterna Comics. Now, Alterna Comics is the publisher that's been getting a lot of flack. This they're a publishing house. They're like a small indie group, and they publish things on like a type of newsprint. It's very neat. It's a nice little thing. This guy is the guy in charge of Alterna Comics, and he has been getting since he came out with a tweet saying that if you wish to work with him and with his comic company, that you must not use block bots. As a result of this, he received a flurry of angry, hate-filled messages and stuff like how he should kill himself. He's a terrible this, he's a terrible that. And this is a guy with, some personal issues, and he almost committed suicide over all the hate mail and stuff that he got. alternate comics is a neat little, sweet little comic thing and the guy here, I'm sorry, I think his name is Peter. He doesn't deserve what he's been getting. Thank you.
It's literally on the screen.
It says it right there. Yeah, I'm sorry. But this is the kind of story that I think someone like Kevin Smith should know about. This is something that I think that they should be discussing on their various different podcasts, because this is comics, all right? This is a guy who is all about his passion, which is just comic books, should not be receiving death threats. Now, I bring this up because I think Kevin Smith is one of those guys who has a platform that should know about this. And I would think he should probably, maybe say something about it. That would be nice.
He owns his own comic book shop, one of the most successful comic book shops, I think, that probably has ever or will ever exist. Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash in New Jersey. And yeah, he definitely should know that this stuff is going on. He probably does, but he's not saying anything.
So I'm not saying people should, tweet this out to Kevin Smith, but it's something that I think I'm going to be doing.
What I find pathetic and annoying about the Comicsgate stuff with stories like this dude clearly said, if you're going to work for the company, you cannot use block bots. And he had a very good fucking reason for it. He had a very specific reason for it, which was basically that when you do use a block bot, you're essentially blocking anyone that might be following, even ironically, somebody that you do not want to interact with. And they could just still be a fan of yours. They could still be, somebody who actually does buy the comic books and doesn't hate on the writers or the fucking art, whatever the case is, shit like that. He had a very good reason for not using block bots and stuff. And because the employees, well, actually more specifically, one fucking employee wanted to be a rebel bitch and continue to push this whole thing like, I'm going to do whatever I want, they eventually lost their fucking job. And yeah, he got a bunch of death threats, but he got even worse after that one employee was fired. But that employee was fired for more than just breaking one of the new rules that they had. They were fired for a number of different reasons. I think one of them being continuously fighting with Peter and all the other editors. But yeah, that one employee lost their job. One of the main reasons was, of course, Blockbot, and there were a few other reasons. And it's fucking pathetic because it's stories like this, it's shit like this that makes me wonder, like, okay, the comic book pros, the ones that are still working for Marvel and some of the ones that are still working for DC, they're trying to tell you that there's nothing wrong, that there's nothing wrong. And yet people like Captain Comics, Diversity in Comics, Ethan Van Sciver, Brett Smith, John Malin, these people have all come forward and said, no, there is a very big fucking problem. There is a huge damn problem. And this is what the problem here is the problem. There is a bunch of fucked up shit going on. And people like Kevin Smith, who are huge comic book fans, and the various other nerds who have giant platforms that could actually just skyrocket the shit out of this and eventually stop it from being what it is. They're not doing anything. And I think the reason why they're not doing anything, I think the reason why Kevin Smith isn't saying shit is because who is Marvel connected to?
Well, I mean, he has his own things to worry about, but I guess the point is like, how much do you love comics is the real question here. So I hope I get to keep my Twitter account.
But I know you love comics. Oh, that's a good idea.
Here's hoping that won't get me in trouble. It might, though, because, you can't trust these things. But I just thought I'd bring this out. I know Kevin's an awesome guy, but yeah, I thought he should know about this.
Well, yeah, of course. But even still, like, I think Kevin's probably not going to notice it. He's probably going to overlook it, whatever the case is. But yeah, like, one of the main reasons why people in Hollywood or why Kevin Smith probably won't say or do anything is because Marvel is owned by Disney. And if Disney throws a shit fit, then the MCU movies are going to get worse. Or maybe they're going to force Marvel to cancel certain books. Or maybe they will do... Because think about it like this. When Fox wouldn't give back the Fantastic Four and X-Men movie properties, what did Marvel do? They completely erased the Fantastic Four comic books, killed off Sue and Reed Richards for this actual thing, and then followed up with dwindled the X-Men down to a cast of maybe 20 characters. And they all were almost completely wiped out. Even longtime beloved characters like Multiple Man were completely killed off simply because, you know, they were just that pissed off. Wolverine got the death of Wolverine. And eventually they would take that back a few years later and shit. And it was all in response to Marvel not getting its way. The children.
Shit, is that Hitler?
Yeah.
Oh. I know. I always get surprised every now and then. I'll look at a comic cover and go, "Oh, dang, what was there?"
But like, it's just I just find it fucking annoying. I just find it really, really goddamn annoying when like the people that know things are going on but don't say anything. It's just Kevin Smith knows the shit is going on. He has to know, but he ignores it. And it's probably because he doesn't want to piss off Disney. It's probably because he doesn't want to, you know, make things worse by actually giving a voice, whatever the case is. Look at the way how did you see the review that he gave for Justice League? He was defeated because he just couldn't hold it anymore. He was just like, I liked the movie. It was fine. I had some problems with it. And he had a fucking notepad of all the problems that he had with the movie. And there were so many problems. And I thought it was fucking stupid because like the guy is legitimately trying to defend a shit movie. But enough of my disappointment with Kevin Smith. The main focus on all of this has been the gates. The gates were stupid on all sides. Gamergate was fucking retarded on both sides of the argument. And it was because at one point it really did start to look like there was gatekeeping on the pro Gamergaters. On the people like the people on the side of Mr. Medicare, Sargon of Akkad, Thunderfoot, Mundane Matt, you know, all before everything fell apart. When they were talking about, you know, Zoe Quinn being a piece of shit and all that stuff, there were people on that side that were actually doing what was essentially gatekeeping. They were actually saying get women out of video games and shit. And it was fucking retarded. You know, nobody liked it. Nobody thought that was actually a good idea. Then the other side was consistently trying to push get women in gaming, which is stupid because it's like women are already in gaming. That's a really dumb argument. But at the end of the day, Tonka put it best. Do you know who won Gamergate? Anita Sarkeesian. Do you know who also won Gamergate? Mr. Medicare. Do you know who also won Gamergate? Zoe Quinn. Mundane Matt. Everybody who was actually the big names involved. Everyone who ended up benefiting from Gamergate. The people that got paid to simply voice their opinion. The people that have gone on tour because of Gamergate. The people that have actually stolen money from their fans, like Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn. They won. They won Gamergate. Gamergate is trying to make a comeback, but it's not really going to make a full comeback. It's never going to be the way it once was. And even if it does make a legit comeback, it's just going to be the same tired out bullshit that we've already seen before. Frankly, I am sick of talking about Gamergate, but people are still talking about fucking Gamergate, and it's fucking annoying the shit out of me.
Well, there are some people who are coming in late to Gamergate.
I don't care. I don't care if they're coming in late. I'm tired of fucking talking about Gamergate. So this is actually going to be one of the last times I actually give an entire fucking show to Gamergate, where I actually will, where I talk about Gamergate and all that stupid shit. Because I'm tired of talking about Gamergate. I will continue to talk about Comicsgate because that is still
a fucking fucked up situation. And the only reason why no one's really winning Comicsgate right now is because Marvel is sinking in a pool of their own piss and shit, and they don't get it because they get to stay afloat from those paychecks from Disney. DC is starting to go the way of Marvel, but at the same time, they've got their own fucking issues to work out. And Comicsgate is almost primarily just the independent comic book people are now making a rise to fame, just like Image did in the fucking 90s with really good products and stuff like that. And the people like Mark Waid, Gail Simone, Dan Slott, Robbie Rodriguez, these piece of shit fucking pros who basically are on the opposite end of Comicsgate. They're the ones trying to continue to push down these independent comic book creators and the pros that have basically turned away from the big two like DC and Marvel, like Ethan Van Sciver, Brett Smith, John Malin, and so many others. These guys are all trying to push and get the independent comic books out there, and they're trying to get comic books good again. We want to make comic books great again. All of that stuff. I'm gonna still talk about that because it actually still has relevance. Gamergate is long dead. It's not necessary. Stop fucking talking about Gamergate. Comicsgate, I'm gonna talk about it, even though I probably shouldn't. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, Gamergate will almost always get brought up when there's another resurgence of the various different talking points, like like women in video games and all that. I will say though is that if you haven't been following the whole situation with Doom lately, it's quite magnificent. Have you guys been hearing about Doom?
No.
So Doom, we all know it's a guy. He goes into a situation with demons and then blows shit up, and it's just all gruesome and bloody and all that. That's great. That's the way Doom sort of is. In the newest one that I believe just recently came out, the guy who would go around and he has to deal with this demon situation where the people are openly letting the demons into the world. And if you see the people who are doing this, they essentially saying you're just discriminating against them because they're in a different plane of existence.
What?
Oh yeah. The people are literally letting demons in because they're refugees or something from the pits of hell, and they need to be treated with respect. They've gone through a lot. They've transitioned from one state of being to another. And the Doom guy is just doesn't give no fucks and just goes around and starts killing people. Or not people, demons.
Interesting.
And that's what sort of broke the internet for a bit. I haven't played the game. I do want to because I want to know. I'm sure there's Let's Plays out there, and I should probably go check it out. But from what I've heard so far, it's pretty good.
Nice. I guess I'll have to check that shit out.
And that's also a big deal because there are smaller games out there making very anti-social justice, anti-feminist games. That don't get on stores. You might see them on Steam if you're lucky. But this is the first time a big publisher has made such a blatant call out on the certain subjects. So I thought that's a fascinating state to be in. It's a good sign. And it's in regards to the Comicsgate thing, I mean, a lot of people out there are going out and making indie publishing houses, if you will. We got Splow Comics. We got Ethan doing the Indiegogo stuff, and a lot of other creators also doing that. And we're seeing a change happening. And we know that there are people who are criticizing the state of the industry, start criticizing how things are going because I think they're scared. Because their comics, I think Squirrel Girl sells at most 5,000 comics per issue, which is pitiful because I think it used to be your comic, like back in the 90s, your comic would get canceled if you get below 20,000 sales.
Yeah, when comic books were still really, really good and everything like that, when they actually followed their own rules and shit. If a book didn't make at least 20,000 or a little over 20,000, then your book would get canceled. It's one of the reasons why comic books like Luke Cage and Iron Fist went away, and then they just repurposed them for Heroes for Hire or whatever their fucking story that they were actually working on at the time, shit like that. That's why certain books would their solo run would go away, and then that you'd see them again in another team story, but then they'd get their own solo book again later on and stuff. It was mainly because the audience just didn't care for them on their solo book initially, and then they saw them in like a team book, and they were like, well, now we actually want a solo book of them. So that's why Iron Fist and Luke Cage eventually got their own books again.
Red, we've been rambling. What's your opinion on the state of comics and maybe video games?
Well, I want to talk about comics a little bit because part of the thing that
You're really quiet.
Sorry, there we are. Sorry, the part of the reason I'd like to talk about comics is because, as you guys know, I went to Anime Fest recently, and I spent a lot of time going to panels about comics and indie publishing and comics and stuff like that. My wife went to a lot of art ones and things like that, and we kept running into a couple of guys. One of the guys we talked to quite frequently was the guy behind Halloween Man. If you guys have heard of that comic, probably not. I'd never had before.
No, I haven't.
Apparently, he's been publishing it for ages because it originally started out as a little character for an independent superhero role playing game, and then he bought the rights to it back and started making the comics, and ended up getting published different ways. And he said, and I learned a lot. We learned a lot because my wife and I would like to do comics, and one of the things that the subject that did not come up, except that one of the guys couldn't help himself but occasionally mention, like he was afraid people were going to. It felt like he was doing it sort of almost like name dropping, but he was situation dropping, where he was talking about, females in comics and female comic creators. And maybe this is part of the spiel that he would usually use at comic cons, but at an anime convention, half of the creators there and with the point of some of the panels, 2/3 of the creators that were at these panels were women. Either as writers or as artists or writer artists, and to the point where in a couple of them I felt like, well, one, I was the oldest dude there almost always, but that there was a sense that you mentioned the whole women in comics thing as though it was kind of necessary, but it was the crowd that he was in didn't give a blink. I mean, it was like, okay, no big deal. It was not taken one way or the other, neither anti or just like, it was just like, okay, that's a thing that happened. We didn't care. We were just interested in how do you get this done? Because almost all the panels were about how do you make it actually happen as either a writer or an artist or publishing, and how do you make these things occur? And one of the things that my wife and I haven't talked about a whole lot, but are simply a side effect of the environment that we know we're going to have to be in, is at one point we had to have. I felt really bad about this because my wife is not dumb. Okay, I did not marry a stupid girl, and she respects my intelligence. So sometimes we just assume that we know these things, and it's fair, we do. Like, we had this awkward discussion where I'm like, I don't want to bring this up, but we should probably keep in mind that if we don't have a somewhat diverse cast, we're going to have trouble, because one of the things we want to make is very anime inspired. We can't get away with the things that anime can get away with, like having a cast that's all fairly ethnically monochrome. Because in Japan, you could do that because they're supposed to be Japanese. Here, you can't pull that crap, even if they're supposed to be Japanese inspired. We can't do it. We just can't. We will get too much criticism somehow. Fortunately, just the way the characters had naturally evolved, some of them just seemed logical to be, and I mean, as part of visual styling. And I'm not going to explain it because I don't want that stuff connected to anything that I do politically, my political commentary, because that would be the kiss of death for it, almost certainly. Or, but depending, maybe if it tickles the right pickles, might actually save it. But it's probably more trouble than it's worth, no matter how it goes. But the concept of how diverse should the cast be, and how should we calculate that, was one of those where it's one of those we both knew and understood that this is something we were going to have to deal with. But I was the one who just couldn't help myself. At some point, I had to say it, because we had to bring up, well, what do we do? How do we keep a mind on that? And that is almost, if we had taken it too seriously and too to heart, that we had to be careful of that, it would be the death of creativity. we lucked out in the fact that, and this isn't me saying, hey, how open-minded I am. It was entirely accidental that the people of color, however you want to put it, happened to make sense for some character designs. It was entirely visual, but it was one of those things. I would love to say that I played it, but I didn't. And it would also sound almost trite if I did, but if I felt that I had to, if we had to look at the cast of characters we'd put together and gone, oh fuck, we better put some POCs in here or we're screwed, you know? And I never want to be in that position. I shouldn't have to care. In the same way, I don't think anyone because there's some of the comic creators that we were with were not white people. And I would never want them to feel compelled, if they were so inclined, to not have just a bunch of people of their own skin color in their comic if they wanted to. I don't give a shit. I'll still read it. You know, I tell you, if it's good, I'll read it. I don't care. You know, and that was one of the other things that was positive about my experience with those panels was these were guys who had been in the industry for ages. 14 years on Halloween Man, and then other stuff he's done. And then the other guy whose name I can't remember, because he's mostly a writer, so it's much harder to identify what he's done. Because I have a terrible memory, not because he's bad. But he said, you know, the thing is, you're going to work with a lot of very different things and all that. But all very positive. It was like, all that we want are good stories. That's what they kept reiterating over and over again. We want good stories. With the art, you just do it, because the art will come along. He said, you know, if you look, the guy who created Halloween and said, if you look at the art that I did originally, it's terrible. But I got to where I am now. I keep doing it, and I got better at storytelling because I keep doing it. He said, just do it. Tell your story. Make something interesting. Don't worry so much about getting the fine things out, because it's not going to happen. And the year before, we got into some different panels with some entirely different people. And one person even gave the advice of saying, if you're going to do your indie comic and you've got a baby, a thing that you've wanted to do your entire life, don't do that first. Give yourself a practice comic. Do that. And she even said that her most popular comic is not her baby. It was her practice comic. She was just doing it to kind of get the feel of how this stuff was done. And it's really, really popular. And she's like, good news is I still love it. It was not my baby. It was not the thing I really want to do. I thought, let's just try this so we can get some practice in. And it hit big, and that's great. And so almost all of it was from industry pros trying to inspire new people to do this stuff. At least what I experienced at Anime Fest. I mean, I can't afford to go to Comic Con, so make of that what you will. But it was very inspiring. The people, what they wanted was for people to try it, do it, tell your story. Don't give a fuck about all this other stuff that makes you worry. They never mentioned politics, but they were, like I said, there was an air of it in the second year, like they were, you know, mentioning some things that are obviously politically charged, but since nobody in the audience reacted or even seemed to give a shit about it, they just like rolled on. You know, like they were expecting someone to go, what about the women's? None of us gave a fuck, you know? And like I said, sometimes I was outnumbered, and that was fine. Nobody cared. And I was so inspiring to just be fans who just wanted to create, to be creative, to do something. And yeah, all of us would love to head to big at some point. None of us is doing it for, at least none of the people that I encountered seemed to want to do it for just that. You know, it was great. WonderCon. Where's Anaheim? God. Good luck getting California. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm stuck in the Midwest. I can't afford those.
Did they not have an artist deli table?
I don't know. What you mean in Anime Fest?
I meant Comic-Con. I'm sure Anime Fest has it.
Oh yeah, it was an entire floor dedicated to it. It's bigger than the dealer's room.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. No, I am not kidding. Bigger than the fucking dealer's room, man. It never. It was, and I think it did. Well, here's the thing. Anime conventions these days is a good 60% female, and the girls spend their money in the artist alley. The dudes spend their money in the dealer's room. It's almost literally that way. It's not literally, but pretty close. It felt that way to me. Now, the dudes. I mean, everybody got in line to the dealer's room at some point, but a lot of money changing hands was dudes for merch in the dealer's room, down in the artist alley, artist floor. Of it was chicks buying all kinds of little art things, and one of the things my wife noticed that really popular are little items like pins and trinkets and things, because you can buy a bunch of those, put them in your pocket, and it's basically like impulse buys. A lot of people do that.
That happens. That's not too bad.
And like Anime Fest, as an example, was on a first come first serve basis. So for the artists, it was much more diverse than it had been in the past. I mean, artless styles, because we had noticed that like the year before, not this year, but last year, there was a lot of, to be blunt, like girly cutesy stuff, just tons of it, which is fine. But it just seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of variety. There wasn't a mecha thing or anything horror related to be seen. This year, at least, there was two artists who wanted to do horror stuff, and one of them was this chick, and I was like, oh god, because she had this corner of her thing with just some hyper gory stuff. I mean, scare your children kind of stuff, and like one that sticks in my mind was this girl that had like her arms and legs ripped off, and there was blood, but she was giving you this evil grin. I'm like, Jesus, what the fuck is that? And the girl who did the art was, it was a chick, and she's like, yeah, if it were up to me, it would all be this stuff. But she's like, all this cutesy stuff sells, so But she stood out. I mean, the people doing non-cutesy poo stuff really stood out, and I think they did good business. But I mean, if you ever want to come to an Anime Fest, dude, if you can find a way down here, you can stay with us.
I'll think about it. But also, I'm surprised it's $350 for an artist alley table at Comic-Con. That's about the same price I pay for the smaller conventions here.
Oh wow, damn.
Yeah.
Getting in must be a pain in the ass.
Maybe it depends. I think sometimes they like to showcase other artists. So I don't know, if I say I'm from Canada, maybe they'll let me in. Although, can you imagine if I ended up into that thing? Oh god!
Because that's one of those things. Callie and I were talking about this. I mean, you and that's one of our friends, and then the wife, the three of us were having this discussion about, if you could get to Comic-Con, that would be a shot at making your career, man, or making your name at least.
I think the
not guaranteed, but it'd be a shot.
Yeah, well, if you were to get like an exhibitor booth, it's like, holy shit, it's like $1,000.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
Comic-Con 10-cent booth. Yeah, this is an extra large booth is like $3,600. Jesus Christ. Although that's not all that surprising. It's about the same at other conventions, so it sounds pretty normal. Yeah. Which reminds me, I think it was Gen Con or whatever. It's got to see the Cyberfrog cosplayer. I think he won first place at the cosplay convention.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that. I mean, we were because one of the guys was talking about how that he saw someone cosplaying one of his characters. He said he's like, there was nothing quite like it, and I was just thinking to myself, if I ever saw someone cosplaying something I created, I think I would almost die of a heart attack. Because I know enough cosplayers that some of them put a lot. It's even when it's not good looking cosplay, the amount of time and effort and love they put into that is amazing. And if someone cares enough about your product to dedicate that much of their life to and their craft, if it's a really good one, a really good cosplay artist, I mean, just someone dedicating their craft to something you made, that's like a fucking love letter to your work. That's the way I look at it, because I mean, it's different when you're like, you've got something that's really popular and has been around for ages. But if you're sort of an indie and someone is cosplaying your product, that's a high compliment that you can't equal a compliment like that because of the amount of time it takes to make a good cosplay, particularly if you've got a really wacky character like that. Yeah, there you go. That is some shit. Somebody put some love into that.
Yeah, it's the costume I was talking about. And they even got the one there, the female cosplayer with the bucket of chicken. Awesome. Chicken. I was trying to find them. Okay? All I had to do is type in Cyberfrog. He should pop up, but things changed since this morning, to say the least.
Oh.
Oh, let me type in cosplay. Yeah, there's the guy. Yeah, that's quite something. I don't know who this guy is, the cosplayer, but I'm sure he'll be on one of the streams sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it would be hard not to just be actually really excited that someone put through the effort to play as to cosplay as your character. I mean, some of the ones that I think that my wife and I are working on might be relatively cosplay worthy fairly easily, because a lot of them have wear normal clothes. And they're not too outrageous, so it could be a fairly easy thing. But still, even then, to just see somebody go through the effort to who liked your character and wanted to be that, and that the flat, it's like it is a physical version of the imitation being the sincerest form of flattery. I don't know. The very idea just makes me giddy, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
Because I mean, that's just. Yeah.
How you doing there, Brockus?
I'm good. Just the meds starting to kick in all of a sudden. I'm getting more and more tired and thinking maybe we should just wind down.
So is it time for me to sing?
No, it's not time for you to fucking sing.
Well, he should probably sing while Schmeckle isn't here.
Okay, you can sing a little bit while Schmeckle is not here.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. So back a few months ago, I was heading to a great big nightclub, and they put me up a couple days early. I came in a couple days early, and they put me in what they call a star suite. Now, here I am, headlining one of the biggest nightclubs in the country, and I wake up 8 o'clock in the morning in this star suite all by myself. Well, that's why I said, ah. But I was always on a man to cheer myself up. I picked up my guitar, I sat down, and wrote a little song. Now, this is how it feels to be alone at the top of the hill, trying to figure out why. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I can't wait to look in the mirror, 'cause I get better looking each day. To know me is to love me. I must be a hell of a man. Oh, Lord, it's hard to be humble, but I'm doing the best that I can.
There you go.
Very good. I just went to look back like that's very good. I like that. That's actually a fun movie. If you haven't seen Sing and you have any affection for cartoon animals and musicals, it's actually quite fun. It's dumb, but it's fun.
Oh shit! Sorry to be yelling on you. So I guess we'll be winding down here. Well, thanks for everyone for tuning in and catching us out there. I'm Semaj. We had Schmeckle. Well, sort of, kind of, off and on. Brockus, Red Robot. We had Unapologetic Canadian here for a little bit, and I believe that's it. If you like what you see here and you want to see more, remember, hit the like and subscribe button for more, and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. While you're at, check out Red Robot on Sunday Fun Day. Every Sunday morning, I should say.
Tomorrow night at the same time, we are going to be doing a hand solo. I'm not exactly sure what the topic is going to be. We kind of covered a lot of nerdy topics, but this is basically your twofer. 2 nerdy topics in 1 week. Fantastic. I bet you tomorrow's hand solo is going to get hijacked for drama. Watch. It's going to get hijacked for drama. Anyways, that has been the show, everybody. Thank you for coming and watching. This has been a Brockus Rage, even though it hasn't been as rageful, and Leaf ended up running away. I doubt it's because I was making fun of her.
Maybe.
But I want to think it's because I was making fun of her, so I can make fun of her harder about it later.
Harder, Daddy, harder.
Oh, God.
God damn it. That's been the show, cunts. Good night, and get the fuck out.
Au revoir, arrivederci, aloha, son.